Let's go, girls. It's so white. Oh my god, it took me so many months to do it, but I did finally finish The A-List by Zoey D. First book in the A-List series, but she's wily. She's crazy. I can't say anything else because I will skedaddle. This book felt like a flashbang. I've covered books from the 2000s and into this current age. It's like staring into a mirror. We have the body dysmorphia, the tiny clothing. I think being 20 is just like a thing that sucks a little bit. And being 17 and being held under these standards, it's wild. It's the baby's first eating disorder, over-therapized young people. You give them weapons instead of tools in the form of therapy. Reading this book and then going online is like eating Thanksgiving turkey for Easter. Throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'd like to issue the following trigger warning: fat phobia, teenage drug use, parental death discussed, teen sexuality discussed, the world as it was pre-2007 housing crisis, and rich people problems. It's a doozy. What I didn't label in here was transphobia and generally discussing of other people's bodies. I forgot about my one short braid. I've got like 3 baby braids in here and I totally forgot about her. She's hanging out. The A-List by Zoey D. Released in 2003. If you have to ask, you'll never be on. The A-List. After 12 years of exceptional grades, Wardolph Astoria teas, and working well with others, Anna Percy has had it with her perfect academic record and her perfect boring prep school life. So she jets off to LA, where in the course of 24 hours she'll hit an Oscar winner's wedding, lounge at an after-hours backlot party, and meet a guy she might just love. Life couldn't be going any better for Anna. That is, until Cammy, Sam, and Dee enter the scene. They are the A-List, and no one steals their spotlight. Zoey Dean's first 4 novels, The A-List, Girls on Film, Blonde Ambition, and Tall Cool One, are bestsellers. She divides her time between Beverly Hills and several small islands in the Caribbean. She's currently working on her 6th juicy A-List book at an undisclosed location. So this book says that specifically. I don't know what the original back of the book said, because this book says this specifically because I got it in A3 book set, which I've talked about and I love very dearly. I really wanted to keep these books nice because they were, they were new. This one rolled around with me in my purse for 2.5 months and shows every 3.5 months. Every bump and grind. A bookcase. Prologue. The moment Cynthia Baltres peed all over an $8,000 Hermes Kelly handbag was the moment that Anna Cabot Percy decided to make Cynthia her best friend. That had been 13 years ago during afternoon tea at St. Regis Hotel in Manhattan. The 2 girls' mothers had dragged Anna and Sin along to a planning session for a charity gala. Before she became Mrs. Alfred Baltres III, Cynthia's mother had been a real estate agent on Long Island, desperate to prove herself to be the equal of Jane to the manor-born Percy. She had focused all of her attention on arranging the fundraiser and had missed her daughter's crotch grabbing, a signal that she needed a trip to the ladies' room. Sin never did take well to being ignored. As Anna stared in disbelief, Cynthia hopped off of her chair, squatted above her mother's purse, and let her rip. Miss Baltres turned in the same shade of red as her fur-trimmed Versace pantsuit, grabbed her doused handbag like it was a long-dead carp, and yanked her daughter off to the loo. Anna, who would have spontaneously combust before she'd ever urinate in public, had been very impressed. That her own mother, clad in vintage Chanel, continued to sip tea as the waiter mopped up didn't even surprise Anna. At age 5, she already had learned her first lesson from the This Is How We Do Things big book East Coast Wasp edition. One simply didn't see what one did not choose to see. Anna. So the prologue is where we meet our setup for this book, is that Anna's got a best friend, Sin, And Sin gets what she wants. And she doesn't get what she wants by just sitting around passively. Sin gets it because she earns it. She wants a man, she pursues him. She wants adventure, she pursues it. Something that Anna is longing to do. Also, Anna's longing to get out of the thumb. Her best friend, you know, sometimes your friends are stifling. They're not stifling, but it's keeping her from truly meeting her potential because she'll always be comparing herself to Sin. Prologue is where we meet our point of view character. We have so many characters, and I want to introduce you all to them, but I don't need to introduce you to them all at once. We meet our fish out of water character, Anna Percy, a self-described wasp of New York East Coast frigid woman in training type who comes to LA to let loose and be free, escape the shadow of her raunchy, bawdy, chaotic, crazy mess of a friend, her Alex Earl type of best friend, Cynthia. Cynthia is a chaos being who lives life like a champ, and from the moment Anna met her, she wanted to emulate the craziness and hoping that getting close to her friend would open doors for her to feel less and less repressed. But in the 13 years she's known her, she's not let loose in any way. Anna really likes Scott. Scott is just a man-shaped character for right now. Everyone cheer. It's baby hand. So Anna likes Scott. However, Scott and Cynthia are hooking up. There's some other reasons why it's not going to work out with Scott. Anna loved Scott from the first moment she had seen him leaning against the tree outside of Trinity, her school, reading The Onion and laughing out loud. But it soon became apparent that Anna's leggy, patrician blonde beauty didn't register on Scott's sexual oscilloscope. He went for the exotic, a dreadlocked art student from Brazil, the black-haired, past-her-butt daughter of the Indonesian ambassador to the United Nations, a gorgeous 5'9" Ethiopian girl with a shaved head. The only thing that had eased the sting of Anna's unrequited love was her realization that Scott never hooked up with anyone born north of the equator. That is until 3 weeks ago when he hooked up with her best friend, Sin. Ew? Ew. She had meant to tell Sin 1,000 times that she loved Scott, but since Anna knew Scott would never love her back, divulging this seemed silly, and Anna Percy was not a silly girl. Now it was too late, and things were going so well. Anna had been accepted early decision into Yale. Her spring internship at a new literary journal meant she could fulfill her credits without having to take any more high school classes. And then the day after Sin and Scott had their burst onto the scene, Anna's 19-year-old sister Susan had invited Anna to a party at a Soho loft. Susan, who had just broken up with her latest boyfriend, hated going to parties solo, so she begged. Anna reluctantly agreed, and at the party she had been surprised to find herself actually having a decent time, chatting in the kitchen with a Time Out news photographer when she realized that she hadn't seen Susan in a while. She excused herself to look for her sister and found her passed out on the rooftop hot tub, naked except for a Randolph Duke mole-hair duster that floated around her like a furry pond scum. Anna gave Susan mouth-to-mouth and called 911 and saved her sister's life. But Susan didn't take well to Anna's methodology. Could you have made a bigger scene, Anna? Neither did Jane Percy, who shipped Susan back to rehab for the second time in a year and then took off to Italy to visit a 28-year-old sculptor whose work she was acquiring. She explained to Anna that remaining in New York would just be too tiring. Besides, she was sure that Anna could fend for herself for a few weeks and with 2 live-ins and a day staff of 4 to assist her. But Anna doesn't do that. She leaves. She goes off to LA for our plot to begin. Anna's love of Scott works in parallels, we're not so quite different from all the other. I'm not like other girls. You can take the girl out of the city, but you can't take the fact that girls are the same everywhere out of the girl. Anna has a lot of family problems with her lovely mother, a frosty, frigid woman of the East Coast, and their parents, the divorce of her parents, and her drugged-out alcoholic sister. The horrible truth was that not quite 18 years of age, Anna had yet to step outside the box. She lived her entire life in the same safe and rarefied confines of a pretty much every other Upper East Side waspy prep school girl, as hard as she tried to fight it. Anna's life didn't begin like the rock slide to banality. Anna's life didn't begin the rock side to banality the day Sin and Scott became Skin and Scott. It had been rolling down that hill for a long time. Her life was boring and predictable, and it was her own fault. Something had to be done about it, and she was someone who had to do it. She could change. She would change. And while hiding in the formidable shadow, and not while hiding in the formidable shadow of Cynthia Baltres, it was time for Anna Percy to carpe diem, as her Latin teacher would say. Seize the day. The actual story begins with her departure from New York. It just begins as Sin and her get a little toasty off some wine coolers and beers in a limo headed towards JFK. Anna's mom is in Italy with one of her lovers. Her sister's in rehab. So she's going off to LA to go be with her dad, who just like left the mom. I think I'm looking back on it, it's kind of all very vague. Excuse me. So I wonder how much of this, a lot of blame is put on Anna's dad, and I wonder how much of this is equally their faults. She decides Anna goes to live off with her father, who gets her an internship at a prestigious literary firm, because that's one of the 3 careers you can have in the early 2000s: literary agent, marketing agent, and magazine editor. So Anna gets on her flight in first class and ends up sitting next to this middle-aged man. Anna sat in her first class seat, staring out the window, but seeing nothing, lost in thought. Surely there had to be another boy on this planet besides Scott Spencer who could make her feel like her insides were bungee jumping. But it was more than that. It was his sense of humor and his mind and... Stop that, stop that, stop that. She ordered her brain. Scott Spencer is just a boy, and you are not starring in a Jane Austen novel. You are starring in your own life, which from here on out is going to be, this must be my lucky day. Anna turned to see a big moon face under a Funk Daddy baseball cap grinning down at her. She smiled politely. The guy, who had to be in his mid-30s at least, stuck his briefcase into an overhead bin and slid his FUBU butt next to her in the seat. He held out his pudgy hand. Rick Vanesnik. And you are? Anais Nin, Anna said sweetly, naming the long-dead favorite writer. Annie. It's a pleasure. With a nod, Anna turned her back to the window. She felt a hand on her shoulder. Tell you what, Annie, I'll guess a couple of stiffies, and we'll get to know each other, miss. Anna was appalled. Not only was Rick Vanesnik culturally illiterate, he was also utterly oblivious to her lack of interest. As the DC-10 taxied the runway, he launched into his unsolicited life story and the rags to riches tale of a Brooklyn boy in a garage band who grew up to make a mint in the music business. To accentuate this point, he touched Anna's hand or leg. She stuck in her window seat. Anna was captive, as she would have been tipped back at the dentist office. Since first class was completely full, and Rick Vanesnik, whom she was starting to think of as the seatmate from hell, didn't come with laughing gas, she decided that vodka tonics would do. She gives him a sit-down. She just starts downing drinks, trying to figure out what type of girl she's gonna be, as his attempts to feel up a 17-year-old girl continues. She makes eye contact with this guy across first class, and she kind of zones out of her conversation with Rick, and this is our first introduction to one of our secondary characters, lovingly nicknamed Princeton Boy. Comes in at the time and sweeps in and acts like he knows it. And she's like, oh my god, didn't I meet you at... Let's go talk. And he's like, oh my god, let's go talk. And Rick is like, you said your name was Annie. So, like, what is going on here? And Ben's like, I literally just saw you groping up this child. So, like, how about you buzz off before I call the cops? So she meets up with Princeton Boy and starts chatting. He rescues her and takes her over and switches seats with Rick. They continue to drink and chat and even attempt to get a little frisky in the airline bathroom. But an air stewardess knocks and breaks that up. Valid. I do not care to hear about the sexual interactions of children. My question, as my question often is why couldn't this have taken place in college? Age up your characters. That was when Anna had her epiphany. It was happening. It was really happening. 13 years of cynicism had not gone for naught after all. Okay, the witty repertoire was filled by more alcohol than she'd ever consumed before in her life. But just the same, she was flirting with Ben Brown, and it was very gallant of you to rescue me, Ben. Ben brushed her hair off her face. I want to be alone with you. Suddenly he stood up and stepped into the aisle. His eyes flicked from Anna to the bathroom. In other words, follow me. Now I'm reading this again, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're a horny rat bastard. My God. This, Anna figured, this was the true official test of her new life. She followed him. The door shut behind Anna, and Ben lifted her onto the sink. They kissed until Anna couldn't breathe, and then just as Anna was fully beginning to truly forget herself, followed by a really loud, pissed off voice. This is a flight attendant. It is against federal regulation for the lavatory to be occupied by more than one person at this time. Open this door immediately. And they were minors. So they whirlwind, and he's like, oh my God, I want to get to know you. Come with me to this wedding. She's like, ha, what? And he goes, I'm going to the wedding of actor Jackson Sharp. I would like you to come. And she's like, giving it up to God, doing it for the plot. Let's go. So she goes. I don't know how much editing I'm gonna do on this, but whenever I see Jackson Sharp's name, I think of Jackson from Grey's Anatomy. And so this one has been going around just trying to do something to feel alive. She's definitely trying to put her head in an oven for fun and for profit. So she gathers her luggage, they say their goodbyes, and Anna's deadbeat dad was supposed to come and pick her up. However, she gets picked up by Django, spelled D-J-A-N-G-O. I've been struggling to say that name most of my life. Thank you, Tarantino, for what you've done. I'm never sure if I'm saying it right, but we're just here now. So Django is here to pick her up. It's her father's assistant. He calls himself his assistant, but he's like just his do boy. He's the chaperone. He makes sure that she's, taken care of. He's not that much older than Anna. Red flag, red flag. He's a proverbial nice working class boy. Everyone is trying to make it LA, and everyone's just one good audition away from quitting whatever weird side job they're doing. She meets Django. He takes her home to her house where she's expecting to meet up with her father. He's supposedly in a meeting, so he's gonna meet them at the restaurant. She wakes up, has a cup of coffee, because I've never met a book character who falls asleep as hard and as quickly as Miss Anna Percy does. Anna, on her way to the restaurant, rides up front. He's just like, they flirt a little bit. There isn't a person that doesn't want. People are constantly flirting with this girl. I don't know if Django is going to be added to the list of viable love interests for the love triangle, love decahedron. But he is here for right now. One of the things that I had to kind of let go of while reading this book is that all of these relationships are weirdly age gap relationships for some. I don't know why. I don't think they know why. But it is what it is, and it's weird to me. That all these men are going to be quite older, and as I was writing the script, Quiet on Set had been released. And I've always, in all of my 2000s nostalgia book content, I've always kind of pushed how much I dislike when a child is put in an adult situation like that. Because a child is a child legally until they're 18, and literally until they're 20. Their brains aren't finished cooking, and the idea that you've got these 20-year-olds being this 17, you've got the whole world as your oyster. Go fish elsewhere. It's very weird. Like, I'm going to bring it up every time. Django is kind of evasive about where he's from. He does give her his demo CD of him playing the piano. He's smooth jazz aficionado named Django. And I'm not supposed to believe this man's a nigga? What? Okay. So Django takes her up to Heaven, the restaurant. She gets in and she's like, cool, I'm gonna wait for my dad. I'll wait for him to order his food and then I'll get mine. She waits for 40 minutes. Her dad still isn't there. She orders her food and leaves. Django picks her up and she's like, where is my dick-ass dad? Django, he comes back. He comes in and is like, he had a meeting, I guess. He takes her back to the house. She goes upstairs to do something, wanders out to the porch, wanders up. She looks out her window and looking out, who does she see? Strung the fuck out. Anna trudged out the back door and followed the flagstone path that led to the gazebo. The first thing she saw standing proudly on the floor was a 5-foot-high sculpture of Cupid. His quiver was full, and he held an arrow drawn back, ready to be shot. The second thing she saw was her father, sprawled on the wooden slats at Cupid's feet. She gasped, afraid for an instant that he was dead, or at least very sick, and then she heard him snore loudly. Was he drunk? To the best of her knowledge, Susan was the only one in the family with an alcohol problem. There was a strange odor that she couldn't quite place. No, wait. It was kind of sweet and skunky, and it made her feel a little lightheaded. Of course she could place it. Marijuana. Now she noticed the partially smoked joint inches from her father's outstretched hand. Judging from how little it had been consumed, it would appear that her father had gained access to what Rick Renesnick, the loser from the plane, would certainly term primo shit. Not that Anna actually knew what primo shit was. Other than alcohol, she had never ingested any mood-altering substances in her life. Womp womp. Her dad gets migraines, and it's California in 2003, so like, meh. So he's self-medicating. I say self-medicating. He says his doctor told him to start smoking weed, which makes sense sometimes, but self-medicating the migraines with weed. He is so blizzisted that he doesn't even know what time it is, and she's pissed. He decides that he wants to have an entire conversation with her about like the scope of their relationship. What if he had a brain tumor or some kind of weird early onset Alzheimer's? If you're getting bad headaches, Dad, you really should see a doctor. Hey, don't you think it's about time you start calling me Jonathan? Why? Anna asked, trying to mask how totally freaked she was by her father's transformation. You're all grown up, that's why. I've always wanted to call my parents by their first names, but it wigged him out. Hey, that really sucks about Susan. That really sucks about Susan? Don't get too worked up over it. Dad! It was a near overdose. Not like she died or anything. Fine, Jonathan. He's insistent that she call him Jonathan, and at first I'm like, God, you're her dad, like, get a grip. But I kind of changed my feelings on this, that I think maybe part of the issue with Jane is that she was a little too stiff. She wasn't personable. She wasn't, loving and affectionate in that way. And thus he's trying to kind of warm her up so that she's less icy like her mother. It gives a more playful element to their relationship, and that she might be a little less stiff, a little less uptight. And this does not play well with Anna, because Anna is nothing if not stiff and uptight. Jonathan asks Anna about her life back east. He's interested in hearing a lot about his ex-wife. He seems to always want to hear about his ex-wife. His father is probably still in love with Anna's mother. I'm not saying that Jonathan is innocent from divorcing the mother and leaving and just getting up to follow his wild fancy, but I wonder how much Anna and her perception and her coldness, dejection is like, oh, fuck this guy because he abandoned her and the kids. Here we go. Let's introduce. So she makes sure that they go inside to talk. He then is like, oh shit, I forgot. And the thing he forgot was his blunt. So she's pretty pissy about this. Let's do a little breaky break. Let's meet another character. So we have Samantha. Samantha Sharp, 17-year-old Samantha Sharp, daughter of America's favorite movie star, Jackson Sharp, was having a really bad day. She was in her bedroom suite, approximately the same size as a small ranch house in, say, a venue, on the second floor of her father's palatial Bel Air estate, a mile, several thousand square feet, and a couple of zeros north of Jonathan Percy's mansion. She wore a silk robe over a black strapless bra and boy-cut lace panties. At the moment, most of the suite's 1,200 square feet were covered in cocktail dress couture. So, Anna is trying to get ready for her father's wedding. Samantha is not a big girl. She's tall. She's like 5'9". And she's not a size 2. So she feels big and fat and treats herself as such. She's got baby's first eating addiction. She's got a lot of things happening. Samantha is literally Rich Kids by Frank Ocean. She's just so privileged it hurts. You know, and the Hollywood is a land of beautiful people, and she's just a little bit off of what's right and what's in. And she feels a little bit off, and she feels it in every fiber of her being of her size 8 body. Actually size 10. Everyone around her is a size 4 max, and it truly hurts her. Jackson, her father, is marrying someone 3 years older than Samantha in Poppy Sinclair, who's already pregnant. She secured the bag, you know, have a baby, be a millionaire. She's a starlet, up and coming, entering Hollywood. It's a Hollywood wedding of the year, and the next year, since it's taking place on New Year's. Sam cannot seem to find a dress that's going to fit her and make her feel good. So she ends up flying in her best friend, not really flying in, but the proverbial flying in, her best friend, Dee, who brings in a dress. A lot of things are going to happen in between this point and that dress getting in there, but that's really what's important. Sam is devoted to looking good because she has to dress to impress Ben, age 42. She had demanded that Fleur Abra call her the moment Ben's RSVP card arrived to be certain that he had checked off party of 1. The call had come 3 weeks ago. Ben was indeed flying solo. In other words, today was her best and possibly last chance. Sam had been crushing on Ben ever since the fateful day 5.5 years ago when he had French kissed her at a family's annual 4th of July barbecue. Maybe he had just done it because it turned out that they were both reading and hating Atlas Shrugged valid. Maybe he had done it because he could see the sun and the moon and the stars of his own reflection in her love-bestowed eyes. Whatever the reason, it had been a defining moment in Sam's life. Since then, she and Ben had stayed friends. He had been a year ahead of her in school, and they'd hung out with the same people. Though she kept hoping he'd never show interest in picking up where his tongue had left off. Almost as if it had never happened. Womp womp. The way this boy acts, I feel like if we talk to a waitress in LA, they probably have a story about kissing Ben. Sam and Ben are the closest to just being friends. However, she is obsessed with him. She can't make a move on Ben because Ben is the object of love in the love decahedron that is Sam's best friend, Cammie Shepard. Cammie is a man-eater. It's important that she was a redhead, but also white. So, if you don't know, Cammie Shepard, sex kitten, man-eater, bitch, positive. Bitch negative, but bitch positive. Cammie is a bombshell and everyone loves Cammie. We went on a Cammie side plot. We will come back to her. So, Sam's parents are divorced. Sam's mom went and fucked off to go find herself. But really, honestly, Sam was 4. She gets a horse named Mystery Aquarius. She gets a horse named Aquarius. She comes outside and a horse trainer. And a nanny. She had a nanny. She comes out to find her dad and nanny riding Aquarius, not in a God-honoring way. So her parents get divorced. Her father would then shepherd in a myriad of girlfriends and things. And if Sam wanted attention, she would do something to make herself beautiful. So her stepmom at some other point got her a nose job. She picked up binge eating and losing weight. I don't know if it's fully explained if it's through bulimia or if it's just she's doing unhealthy things and starves herself. By age 10, Sam had turned into a chubby, hairy loner with an overbite. She had already decided to follow in the footsteps of other chubby, hairy loners and become a movie director. Growing up as her father's daughter in the rarefied world of Hollywood, Ayla of Hollywood A-list, she tended to see her life as a movie anyway, mentally scoring her most dramatic moments, mentally framing her most visual moments, and mentally scripting her most important conversations. She had started prowling around with a video camera, and thus, in the pursuit of a cooldom, she had ended up discovering her muse. It was during one of these prowls that she had come upon her father and the live-in nanny, Aquarius, on the custom-made rocking horse that Sam's father had given her for her 6th birthday. Aquarius was doing bareback tricks on the horse. Sam's father was riding Aquarius. Aquarius got fired, Sam's parents got divorced, and the rest is history. Within the year, her father had remarried to a semi-famous actress with whom he had just finished shooting a movie. A week after that, when Jackson Sharp had gone on location to shoot a new picture, the famous actor had performed her first stepmotherly act. She had taken the young Sam to get her eyebrows, leg, and back waxed. That outing was quickly followed by others, to Dr. Attenberg for invisible braces, to Fakari for chemical hair relaxing, and to a bariatric doctor who put Sam on a diet, complete with cute little pink pills. "This will be our little secret, honey," she had said, that made Sam run around in circles in the backyard like a terrier chasing her own tail. When her father had returned home at the end of the shoot to find his much cuter, much thinner daughter, he never asked her how she lost so much weight so quickly, but he had already rewarded her by buying her a pony, a real one this time. Sam had never ridden a horse in her life, nor had she ever expressed any interest in horses. 4 years of psychotherapy later, Sam had an epiphany about the Aquarian gift, and at the time she found her father in Aquarius riding cowboys. Sam had returned to school and discovered that now she was semi-cute, which she was considered and so she undertook phase 2 of her remodeling campaign. She started workouts at Crunch and had her too wide nose and receding chin done. Freshman year, she had gotten hair extensions from Raymond and began twice weekly blowouts at Mimi's. She wore the hippest, most expensive clothes and the best makeup, and Claude Dupierre Boutique's $450 jar face cream. And she had successfully moved up the social ladder. But damn it, she still wasn't beautiful. Woof! Trauma. Literally West Coast mass. Literally West Coast Alicia. Actually. So Sam's parents are divorced, and Sam's mother, Kate Middleton's, up and leaves after that. She, new year, new page, new look, makeovers herself and increases her social capital, but you can't buy it, and she just doesn't have it right now because she's 17. Sam just feels that Ben is just so different. He just gets her. He understands her. Next, we meet Delia. She's blonde. They're all blonde. They couldn't all be blonde, but Delia is truly a blonde. We meet Delia young, and she's Sam's other best friend. Dee is a dummy. She's so empty-headed, and she's sweet. She keeps dating all these gay men that live in a clear closet, and everyone but them and Dee can tell that they're gay, but she keeps dating them, and then being like, "Oh no, you're gay." Sam thinks she's better than Dee because she's smart, and Dee thinks she's better than Sam because she's pretty. What the fuck? So they're talking about Ben bringing a +1, and she truly feels like she has a chance to get with him. So you know how I was like, Dee is so sweet. Dee is a freak. Dee bounced up and down on Sam's bed, looking much like she had when she was 8 years old. Nothing made her happier than making people happy, except maybe truly dirty gossip, or fooling around in public places. The fooling around in public places thing was weird because, unlike her dear friend Cammie, she didn't think of herself as show-offy kind of girl. Maybe it was because she was so nice. She decided that it probably was, and that doing something scandalous appealed to her. But that was just a game. Love really was everything to her. And what would make her happiest all would be to be loved by Ben Binnenbaum. She stopped bouncing. It was just so odd that Sam had mentioned Ben. Maybe Sam really did want him. Nah. Most likely Dee decided Sam had been so in tune with Dee's own vibrations that she decided to pick up on Bee's feelings without knowing it. Dee believed in things like that. As much as Dee wanted to confide in Sam about her love of Ben, she didn't dare. That is, until Ben loved her back. Things worked out the way she planned. It could happen. But what if she told Sam, and God forbid Sam told Cammie? Dee shuddered. Being on Cammie's shit list was a fate worse than death. Dee's a freak. Like, she's sweet. She's also just like she'd just be doing stuff. Everyone knows that Cammy wants Ben because she keeps saying that she's over it, which they all know means that she is not over it. They're all backstabbing one another and just, they're not girls being girls. What happened to friendship? What happened to ally? They're all crabs in a bucket pulling each other down into the hell of loneliness. But they're all best friends, yet they're all keeping secrets from and for each other. We will dig into the fact that Dee's dad is a record executive momentarily. He's at Gyro Records. He just kind of lucked into the next big thing, and now they live a comfortable life. Dee is into New Age spiritualism and self-help books, really trying to be the best she can be. Like, these children need parents and Jesus. Stop going to the club. Dee likes to go to the club and flash her titties. She just got them pierced, and she's a little loosey-goosey. Put that trad wife back in the box. I understand I have 14 books to go, but my God, why couldn't they be 18? There are seniors, second semester seniors in high school are 18. I know having an entire book consisting of Leo, Virgos, Sages, Scorpios, Sags, Capricorns would be a little insane, but I can't. These are children. Put a shirt on that baby. Why isn't that baby wearing a jacket? I understand that it's young adult and young adult media, especially at that time, truly meant high school, but God, this is very weird. Zoey Dean, you're going to hell. You are not seeing heaven. So we're back with Anna. It's 5 p.m. It's time for her to get dressed in her East Coast simple New York sleek way. She wears this beautiful dress that's got like corset pieces. It's like got a corset and then it's like draped fabric that's ruched and bunched. And I think it's got an asymmetrical slit. It goes all the way down to the ground. She goes and she meets up with Ben, who picks her up in a Maserati. They go and they drive and they're having a great time. And she's trying to inform him that the girl he met on the plane is not her. She's like, I am not a freak. I'm not. And he's like, that's okay. Because I want to meet you, girl. She's like, bet. You're not like the other girls. The wedding takes place at the LA Observatory at Griffin Park. It's late. It's so late. Like, this book could be made. This book could be its own, like, TV movie. Again, because I don't read the back of the books until I'm sitting down with you all, I didn't know that she just advertises it as, like, a crazy 24 hours. But I'm glad I have that information now, because this book specifically acts as its own, like, introduction made for TV movie. It is so well paced for how long it takes to get through it, given I did not want, there was some points where I was like, but with the exception of a couple of things, everything we learn here about these characters over the next, you know, remaining 24 hours are all really, really interesting. So this book is really good with establishing location and the kind of vibe of everything. This fits right in with schlocky TV lovers, 90210, the OC, The Hills type TV. And knowing that half of this writing couple wrote on television, really, like, you can feel it, you can taste it. I have some notes that I've already written about my feelings towards this, so hopefully when we get to the end of this series we can have some talks, or maybe even the midpoint. I don't know, but we've got just like a lot to talk about. Anna is wandering through the event and she's like, oh my God, Ben, how did you get invited here? He's like, oh yeah, I know his daughter Sam. We grew up together. And Anna is feeling a bit out of her element, but then she gets recognized by someone she's already met before, someone she's intimately familiar with. Her friend, her mother she's just friends with royalty, with like a just nice old princess. She meets her, they greet each other, i.e. Trixie Mattel and Lisa Vanderpump. And this kind of equals the playing field as far as Anna and Ben. Anna is a fish out of water as far as how LA works and not being an LA native and knowing people, but she is not a fish out of water on how to behave in society. And I think that that is a really good balance to strike, as opposed to being like take this bitch from the Midwest and embarrass her. They reached a security checkpoint where Ben had to show his identification and ID. His invitation and ID. The invitation was scanned under an electronic reader to ensure that they hadn't been counterfeit. They were briskly informed that People magazine had exclusive media rights and the private photography was strictly forbidden. Finally, they were permitted to enter the observatory's main rotunda. It was already crowded with the rich and famous, all who seemed to know each other. Anna had been here years ago with her grandparents and loved it. The interior looked quite different, though having been transformed for the wedding. The massive globe was still in the center of the room, but now it was swathed in gold and red velvet. Above it, a huge brass bell swung gently at the end of the iron cable. Dangling from the bell was a gold angel, shooting an arrow through the red heart. Anna gazed up at the famed ceiling murals. The planets depicted as mythological gods and goddesses. They must be kidding, she murmured. What? Anna discreetly pointed upward at naked Zeus, whose face had been replaced by a likeness of Jackson Sharp's. Nearby, Aphrodite, who had the visage of Poppy Sinclair. I don't suppose they're meant to be ironic. Ben slipped an arm around Anna's waist. You have no idea how refreshing it is to be with a girl like you. Anna's heart sank. This is exactly what she had been afraid of. I'm sorry, I just gave you the wrong impression. It's not like me to... Ben laughed and hugged her. Anna, the way he said her name was a caress. And then in front of the movie stars and Hollywood moguls and the below 40-foot rope cable that dangled a brass wedding bell, he kissed her. I know it's like the least important casting of this like book for show, but if I'm always going to be team hire no names for teen dramas, because I think in 10-15 years when they're like making the big money, to be like they were in so and so is much more interesting than getting like everyone to be in everything all the time. I want Eric Dane. Eric Dane is such a good handsome villain. The most likable Eric Dane has ever been to me was right before he died in Grey's Anatomy. So Eric Danes as Jackson Sharp and Sydney Sweeney as Poppy Sinclair. I think Sydney Sweeney herself is too old to be the fresh-faced ingenue, but I think the age gap between Eric Danes and Sydney Sweeney is correct to give off the right vibe of just like, you're too young and you're too old to be with each other. So back with Sam and crew. I'm sorry, I've just had them laying here. They've just stopped watching Anna and Ben enter, and they look at each other and they're effectively like, let's go bully this bitch. So they go and try and make her life a living hell. Let's go be beautiful temptresses of suicide. They go over, they're like, oh my god, she's beautiful, like Grace Kelly, she's lovely. Sam is dressed in a bridesmaid dress that has her in the visage of an Oscar. And she's tall, and she's bigger to fill out this tall dress. She's just not feeling very Kanye fresh today. I think I did put it in my trigger warnings because I remembered. But again, warning for transphobia. We have a lot of discussion about the wait staff at this wedding, which for some reason we have a lot of gay side characters that I'm curious about the logistic of that. I understand it's LA. It's LA. There are gay people. But it reminds me so much that gay people being the butt of the joke is just like so easily played out and reads as tacky and gauche to my eye. They have these waiters there that are they're in drag. Some of them are in drag, and then a couple of them are just women. And instead of just referring to them as geishas, for world building, they're referred to almost exclusively as he geishas. It's not even like good to read. Like, looking at it doesn't make a funny quip. Like, heishas would make sense, but it's just he geishas. I feel like they wanted to use the T slur there. I feel like they wanted to do something worse, and I'm glad someone pulled them off the ledge. It's real gross, the fact that that's already happening. Sam is busy being a mean girl, like a predatory evil bird, to do her duties as a bridesmaid, because she really doesn't want to be there. The wedding planner pops up and is like, hey, you have to go do your father's wedding photos. You have to be here. And Cammy, in a way that kind of separates the like middle school antics of the click books, where Massey is operating like she's the most important person in the world, and then is like constantly being brought down back to earth, whereas Cammy might be it through sex and power and just sheer raw confidence. She might be the most confident person in the world. Sam, Fleur interrupted Sam's mental rally. These are your father's wedding photos. You should want to be in them. I've already been in a set of my father's wedding photos 7 years ago. I think that's a lifetime quota. Don't you even care about how your father feels? He won't notice, Sam said, her eyes still on Ben and the beautiful girl. I'm sure that isn't true, Fleur said, sucking in her bony cheeks. What is the matter with you Hollywood brats? Do you think the whole world has to revolve around you all the time? Are you deliberately trying to ruin this day for your father and Poppy? Is that what you want? Before Sam could respond, Cammy moved in. What's your name again? Fluoride? The wedding planner pressed her lips together in a thin, angry line. Fleur. You can call me Miss Abra. What she wants, Fluoride, Cammy continued, ticking things off of her fingers, is a father to still be married to her mother and her mother to come back from her fling with the Dalai Lama, Heidi Klum's legs, world peace, and D, a bridesmaid dress that doesn't make her look, what the fuck is the editing in this book? A bridesmaid dress that doesn't look like Bigfoot playing dress up. I thought I was illiterate. It's the editing. There was not a copy on this. A bridesmaid dress that doesn't make her look like Bigfoot playing dress up. So unless you can make those things happen, I suggest you get the hell out of my friend's face. Fleur's recently reconstructed nostrils, Sam knew what cocaine damage looked like when she saw it, quivered indignantly. As she marched off, Sam smiled gratefully at Cammy. No one could tell someone off the way Cammy could tell someone off. Thanks. Massey would throw a bitch fit and they would just be like, come on, kid, pick her up. They're like actually powerful here, and I find that to be fascinating. So from a new perspective, we get Ben. As he's like, I'm just so happy to be around Anna. Anna's great. He notices Cammy, and Ben is immediately like, Ben couldn't help but notice that Cammy still moved like walking sex. She was the hottest girl he'd ever known in his life. Cammy Shepherd could make the Iceman cometh. Even when he hadn't liked her, he loved having sex with her, after which he hadn't liked himself very much, but he was over her now. He wasn't about to let his life be ruled by the head below the waist. He tries to warn Anna that things are going to be bad and they should probably avoid them, but D comes up and G checks her. And kind of back to the whole thing with the transphobia. Yeah, they're supposed to be wondering about, God, what if Cammy and Ben was just Sin and Scott all over again? Then Anna smiled. She was the one with Ben, not Cammy. This time she had gotten the guy. As all three girls continue their banter, Anna leaned gently towards Ben. He eased his arm around her waist. If her earlier confession about being a girl on the plane not being the real Anna had faced him, he didn't show it at all. So, you know how it was like, is a FUBU wearing shock jock? And then I was like, Dee's dad is just like a music executive who got lucky. Anna hoped that that was because he had taken it all in stride. So Anna, we're all dying to know how you and Mr. Ben met. At Princeton, Ben said instantly. There was a kegger at the Labada Chi house. Labada Chi house. After a Yale football game, some drunk linebacker was hitting on her and Ben came to my rescue, Anna said, delighted to play along with the new and improved How We Met story. It was like the secret code that only they shared. We ditched the party and took off. Party? Can I read? Am I literate? I'm beginning to question that. We ditched the party, took off in his Jeep, and drove to the beach. Long Beach, Ben added, to watch the sunrise, Anna concluded. Dee sighed. Stuff like that never happens to me. Ben Birnbaum? I gotta know how this man's name is said.
Roger Birnbaum?
Birnbaum. I'm truly impressed, purred Cammy. I've always known you to be more of the take no prisoners, do her against the wall type. Cammy was referring to an experience she and Ben had shared one night backstage at the Viper Room. Too much Cuervo Gold could make a girl lose her inhibitions. Not Cammy realized that she had very many of those to begin with. Not that Cammy had that many to... I think the book was bad. I don't know if the book's always been this bad or if this version of the book is just very cheaply bad. Ben had been quite different Ben back then. At least so it seemed to Cammy. I guess Anna brings out a different side of me, Ben said. That's so sweet, Anna, Carmi oozed, and then mentally added, die, bitch. How long have you two been together? Dee asked. Ben cocked his head at Anna. Was it 3 months now? Put that on the wall. Why is Dee asking how long they've been together? Put that on the wall. 2.5, Anna corrected, but it feels like a Dee baby. A short guy in his mid-30s clad in a black leather tuxedo jacket and black jeans interrupted them. He held out his arm to Dee, who squealed and took a running leap and jumped into them. I heard Bobby and Whitney were being psycho again, Daddy. I didn't think you'd make it. Yikes. Dee said, hugging the man again. I'm so glad you're here. Which was more than either Anna or Ben could say. Anna's jaw headed south as she watched Ben's face go as white as his French cuffed shirt. Because Dee was in the arms of none other than Anna's seatmate from hell, Rick Renesnick. Rick wagged a finger at Anna. I met her on the plane from New York. Look, don't be an asshole about this, Ben muttered. Me? An asshole? Rick said. He turned to Dee. That's a frat bet. That's when the frat brat met her too. Wrong, Sam said. They go to Princeton together. My lily white ass, they do, Rick hooted. I'm telling you, they met on the plane. She was sloshed and looking for a good time, and he made a move. Next thing I know, bada bing, bada bam, they're going at it in the first class John. He pumped his fist for graphic emphasis. Heat rose to Anna's face. That's not what happened. I didn't. Carmi's face lit up. Oh my God. It's true. We don't owe them any explanations, Ben muttered to Anna. Ben, how could you? Sam cried, milking the moment for all she's worth. She put her hand to her heart. You brought some B-list slut to my father's wedding. God. She probably did you for the invite, which that's tacky as shit, bro. Have some goats. If there was one thing Anna knew she was not, it was a B-list slut. She also knew that anything she or Ben might say in their defense would only make them look guiltier. She thought getting caught on the plane was humiliating, but it was nothing compared to this moment. An image sprang to Anna's mind of the damn Cupid statue in her father's gazebo. Cupid was the Roman god of love. At that moment, Anna wished with every fiber of her being that she was Cupid, because Cupid could grow wings at will and simply fly away. Rick sucks. And there is nothing that I love, we all know this, more than I love a villain. I think she's so complicated and nasty. Carmi's whole deal is that she's had this sweet little life, little LA life, middle-class father, and then things happen. Cammy Shepard took all this in with little reaction. She sat with her parents in the 10th row, scratching a French manicured nail against one of the painted roses on her seat cushion. If this shit comes off on my dress, I'll sue them, she told her father. Clark Shepard proudly patted her knee. That's my girl. Her stepmother, Patrice, shot Cammy an evil look. That was nothing new. Cammy knew Patrice loathed her, which was fine with Cammy, who loathed Patrice back. Cammy's real mother had been an elementary school art teacher who died in a mysterious boating accident when Carmy was only 8. That night, Cammy had been at Dee's house for the very first time, for her very first sleepover. When her father had come to pick Dee up the next day and come to Dee's the next day and had broken the terrible news, Cammy hadn't believed him. How could her mother be the only, could there one day and gone forever the next. Oh my god, hooked on phonics. Never stop learning. They had been painting Charlotte's Web mural on her bedroom wall together. Surely her mom would come home to finish the project. But the mural was never finished. Carmi would never let anyone touch it either. The half-completed panorama still adorned one of her bedroom walls. She never spent the night at anyone else's house either. She was too embarrassed to admit it was because she knew it was irrational. She feared that if she spent a whole night away from her home, her father would die. When Carmi's mom had died, her father had been a junior agent at William Morris. The family was living in an area called Beverly Hills Adjacent, meaning in the shadow of true power and wealth without actually possessing it, which galled the hell out of Cami on a regular basis. 2 years later, her father married Patrice Coos, a has-been actress on the William Morris roster who longed for a comeback. Her father had finagled Patrice the role of Natalie Portman's mother in a low-budget indie flick about a mom who fought for her daughter after she had been sold into a sex slave to the Russian gangsters, which won her a Golden Globe nomination. After that, it seemed that Cami had every has-been in Hollywood flock to her father for representation. It began with the, oh my god, I thought she was dead has-beens, followed by the please, she's over 40 for God's sake has-been, followed by the 30-year-olds on the verge of has-beens, and then after that, Creative Arts Agency, otherwise known as CAA, the most powerful talent agency in Hollywood, had wooed Carmi's father and his clients away from William Morris with an offer of a corner office. The big bucks started rolling in, and Clark Shepard moved his little family to a mansion in the zip code of Good and Plenty, 90210. It is heavily implied that Cami's dad killed her mother and then shifted to this woman, Patrice, who came in, and I think Cami would hate this woman even if she didn't suspect her of a murder. Cami and Dee are trauma bonded because Cami coming back from the sleepover at Dee's when she finds out about her mother. I'd like to believe that if Cami's mother hadn't died, she might be less of a bitch. Cami and Patrice snip at each other, and her father does literally nothing about it because he is so passive in his child's life. A couple of rows in front and a little to the left, she could see Ben and Anna seated together. Ben's mom and dad, Dr. and Mrs. Dan Binbaum, had joined them. Ben and Anna were deep in conversation, and Ben cut his eyes back towards Cami for a moment. She gave him a slow, sultry smile. Good, she thought. Very good. The truth was that Ben was the first boy Cami had really, truly, deeply fallen for. Not that she had ever told him that. He had never said I love you to Cami, and she wasn't about to say it first. But she did love him. She'd even come close to breaking her never wake up away from home rule for him because he made her feel so safe. She'd never let on to her so-called best friends that Ben was more than hot sex either. Cami wasn't about to give anyone that kind of power over her. We also meet a good golden retriever boy. Hi, Cami! She turned to the friendly male voice behind her and saw Adam Flood slip into a seat his parents had been saving for him. The year before, Adam had been the new guy at school, loose-limbed and cute in a Ben Stiller kind of way. If Ben Stiller had been about 6 inches taller and habitually dyed his hair different bizarre colors. Adam was so funny and nice and non-threatening that he'd effortlessly worked his way onto the school's A-list. It didn't hurt that he quickly became a point guard on the varsity basketball team, spoke Russian, and was a nationally ranked chess player. Since the last time Cami had seen him, Adam's hair had gone from Elvis black to semi-blue. Nice do, Cami told him, smiling. It's awful, Miss Flood commented, though she had a loving look on her face when she said it. Adam had once told Cami that his parents had met in law school at the University of Michigan. A couple that had met in law school, gotten married, had kids, and lived happily ever after. To Cami, it seemed like some kind of fairy tale. The Floods had moved from Ann Arbor to Beverly Hills, and Adam's parents had joined a prestigious entertainment law firm. They handled Jackson Sharp's legal work and lived a few blocks away from Cami. Cami figured they had to be reasonably wealthy, yet they were utterly unpretentious, almost unheard of in Cami's social circle. Their home was quite a bit smaller than Cami's, and Mr. Flood drove a Prius. His wife drove a Saturn. As for Adam, he didn't even have his own car, which is completely unheard of for a teenager in Beverly Hills. I like him. I like clashing opposites. The same way I would have loved Claire to get with Josh, because I think, like, Cam is just so, like, they're the same. It's a positive and a positive. But, like, just, like, Fix that girl. She's crazy. She's got crazy girl pussy. Save her. Cammy longs for a life of the simple things, and she just can't quench that thirst through sex and duplicity. So she's gonna make it everyone else's problem. She likes to hang out with Adam's family, and they seem very sweet and nice. There are some other people. They're there. They'll be around in the background. So imagine I'm talking about the 5 or so characters I've specifically introduced. A veritable group of 3 or 4 are constantly also hanging around. I like them together, and even if she's terrible and doesn't deserve Adam, he's kind of just like a paper cutout of a good, cute boy. So there's not much we can do about him right now. He's literally like a cutout of like a mid-late kid with blue hair. Adam sees Anna for the first time and is like, wow. And Cammy's just like, we cannot keep doing this. I cannot keep losing these boys to this random ass girl. And I can imagine how frustrating it is to see your stable of men all getting whisked away and wooed by just what is described as just the most banal East Coast wasp. Getting got by a wasp. And I can't hold myself back. And then we get taken back to Cammy, and this is some of my favorite work. Cammy is drunk and not having a good time, so she wanders to a cemetery. I forgot, I was like, Ben's dad's fucked up. I forgot how fucked up. Ben's dad got him a prostitute. He took him onto the boat, got him a prostitute, and was like, go become a man. And he was like, I'm literally 14. And he was like, this is terrible. Let's see. He cheats on his wife. He cheats on his taxes, and he wastes his surgical skills on bullshit vanity cases. He gripped the boat's metal rail. I'll tell you the kind of guy he really is, Anna. When I turned 14, he took me out for what he called a guy's night. We had dinner at Spago, then we went to this apartment on the beach that he and his cronies kept. My mom doesn't know this place exists, mind you. About 15 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. In walks in this drop-dead gorgeous blonde. She was my birthday present. Anna was shocked. You mean he got you a prostitute? Anna was... those chicks charge way too much to be called prostitutes. They're companions. And they'll companion you wherever a $500 will go. Including into a 14-year-old boy. Anna's stomach turned over. That's disgusting. I didn't exactly do dear old dad proud when I refused. Good for you. Don't give me any credit for being noble, Anna. The truth is, I was scared shitless. I don't know why I'm telling you this all, but I hope it's because you trust me. Hold a dot on that. Cammy sighed and drowned the last few sips of her champagne in her glass. Her plan was to invite Ben to share this mission with her. What a joke. She blinked in the direction of the band. She was seeing double of the lead singer. What the hell was his name? The band again. Something started with a D. One syllable. Dick, maybe? Right. Dick. She was seeing double dicks. Not good. Too much champagne. She had zero desire to risk a DWI. If Ben had been with her, he could have driven, but fucking Ben was fucking someone else, somewhere else. Cammy decided she would walk. Hey, don't leave, baby, some guy was calling, but Cammy gave him the finger as she walked out of the party and kept walking. Out of the Warner Brothers lot, and then east on a deserted Riverside Drive, past Disney's fucking Mickey Mouse-eared fence and the building crowned with several gigantic stone dwarfs. When she reached NBC Studios, Cammy removed her shoes. You'd think she'd be able to walk in $1,200 balonics, and she carried the stiletto heels. 15 minutes later, she reached the high fence that surrounded the huge forest lawn cemetery complex. Obviously, the place was officially closed at this hour. Not that such a minor detail would dissuade her. It had been closed every New Year's Eve. Every New Year's Eve, she found a way inside. She followed the fence up the steep hill, searching for a certain spot where the fence was in a minor disrepair. When she found it, she pushed hard on the chain link until they separated from the retaining pole. The fence gave way just a few inches, enough for Cammy to slither inside. Shit. She dropped one balonic on the far side of the fence. To hell with it. She hurled the other one over the fence in general direction from which she had come. If the shoes were there when she came back, fine. If not, whatever. Once she found her bearings at the dark cemetery, it was only a 5-minute trek to her destination. The grounds were well manicured, and the close-cropped grass tickled her soles as she walked. Almost before she knew it, she was standing at the burial plot. "Hi, Mom," Cammy said. "Happy New Year." Cammy took her keys from her purse and shone the attached mini flashlight on the headstone. All it bore was her mother's name, Janine Rhett Shepherd, followed by the year of her birth and death. No inscription, no Bible passage, no beloved wife, mother, and teacher. Nothing. Nada. Zip. Carmi trained the flashlight on the rest of the plot and saw a bit of crabgrass that had sprouted near her feet and cleared it away. There's a dirty straw wrapper, too, which she stuffed in her purse. Would it kill the ghouls who worked these grounds to keep them up, the way they were getting paid to do? She crouched down by the headstone, lost her balance, and stumbled to the ground. Sufficiently inebriated not to feel the cold earth under her ass, she just brought her knees to her chin and circled them with her arms. This alcohol-soaked pilgrimage had been an annual event for her since she turned 14, but she never quite been as wasted as she was this time, which would later muse was probably why she was asked what she asked aloud. "Was it really an accident, Mom?" She waited as if actually expected her mother to psychically connect her from beyond the grave to tell her the truth. "It's the part about Dad not calling the police until the next morning that's always bugged me," Cammy went on. "He said he had taken a sleeping pill. Is that really what happened? Or maybe you jumped overboard. Maybe you wanted to die. I just really, really like to know once and for all, Mom. Now would be a really good time to tell me." Nothing. Cammy? I love Cammy. I love Cammy. I'm sorry. Cammy. Also, in my notes I have it labeled as Dr. Shepherd. He's not the doctor. Ben's dad's the doctor. Her dad is the whatchamacallit. He's the literary agent. We have so much we've set up here. Mom mystery, ho dads. None of these dads are shit. Parent power rankings for this series is a race to the bottom. Impressive. Honestly, I'm proud. Good job, team. Good job. So Sam has brought their party group back to her dad's house the dad's on honeymoon, so it's not a big deal that she's hosting the party there. Dee is flirting with a masseuse who kind of gives off this gay, but it appears that Dee is just flirting just to flirt. Sam is there, Adam's there, everyone's there. Sam is feeling pitiful because she's like, "I want Ben, but Ben's with Anna." And very similarly to how Cammy's like, "I want Ben, but Ben's with Anna." Everyone hates Anna because she's with Ben. Sam has her skins moment where she gets, she doesn't get naked, but everyone else is skinny dipping. They're all in the pool, bringing in the new year, being young, rich, overprivileged. Back to Anna and Ben. So I kind of cut it off before. So Anna and Ben are getting hot and heavy on the boat. It's beautiful. It's New Year's. New year, new you, new page, new bad bitch. But she can't go through with it. She's like, "I want it to be special. I want it to be, it has to be special." Ben says, "It's fine. I'll bring the boat into the marina. It's fine. I'll take you home." It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "It's totally fine." Mind you, the last passage I read from Ben, she's like, "You're such a good guy. You're such a good guy. You're just such a nice guy." And he's like, I'm so emotionally intelligent. I don't mind telling you this because I trust you and I want you to trust me. So he's like, "I'll go get the boat. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it." Anna, who cannot stop falling asleep at plot relevant points, conks the fuck out. Bye-bye. And so she wakes up. What could have been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15? Who knows? She's alone on the boat in the marina. She wakes up, she can't find Ben, she calls him, he doesn't answer, she panics and is like, and I was gagged, you could feel the palpable, fear and, embarrassment. That's the thing, is, Ben won't just lie to her. Her sister Susan, for example, been in East Hampton at a mansion of a composer who had been deported for importing cocaine from his native Bolivia. The mansion had been left to his ex-wife. The ex-wife often encouraged her teenage son to invite his friends to swim in their pool. Then she'd select a boy for a guided tour of a lot more than her home. Even at 14, Susan's drinking problem had already been in full, albeit secret swing. The divorcee's bar had always been stocked with iced stoli. Feeling no pain one afternoon, Susan had shed both her bikini and her virginity with one of the boys the divorcee had passed over. In other words, her sister had been a consolation prize. Recalling that story made Anna want to cry. She made a mental note to call Susan first thing in the morning. Maybe Susan's horror story had made her even more skittish. She wasn't sure. As Anna lay there, she had no idea whether or not she had done the right thing. Part of her wished Ben would come running down the stairs and take her into his arms, whereupon she'd be swept away by passion. She'd be unable to resist, and part of her, well, didn't. Anna sank against the pillows and closed her eyes. Up top, she could hear Ben puttering around, swapping the deck and replacing the terrapins he had removed before. It was such a comfortable bed, the silk sheets and the down comforter and the gentle rocking of the boat. She was so tired. Hey, sleepyhead. Anna opened her eyes. It took her a moment to recall where she was and why. I guess I fell asleep, she said groggily. What time is it? Around 3. I hate to wake you, but I'm going to get the car and bring it over the slip. You get dressed, I'll come back and get you. It won't take me long to dress, Anna protested. I can come with you. Ben grinned. Take your time. I like to think of you in here looking like you are right now. Back in a flash. Anna got up, washed as best she could in the cabin's small basin, and quickly dressed. She felt slightly ridiculous as she pulled back on the vinyl pants, silk chemise, and Ben's tuxedo jacket. She shivered. Ben was right. It had gotten cold, and she didn't feel like searching for a fleece jacket. She decided to crawl back under the covers and wait for Ben to return with the car. She awoke with a start. How long had she been asleep? Ben? No answer. Ben? Louder this time. Still no answer. She got out of bed and went up top. Ben, where are you? Up on the deck, she could read her watch. The time made her stomach lurch. It was almost 4 o'clock in the morning. Ben had departed for the car a little after 3. So where was he? Ben? Her voice echoed across the deserted marina. Shut the hell up! We're trying to sleep! Someone bellowed from another boat. Anna climbed off the nip tuck and onto the dock, her heart racing, and she jogged along the wooden dock, heading towards the main part of the marina. Where had they parked? Why hadn't she paid more attention? Thoughts of what could have happened to Ben slammed against her head at a breakneck speed. He'd had an accident. Hit his head, fell in the water. He'd been kidnapped. She stopped. There was a sign for Joe's Clam Restaurant with 2 arrows pointing towards a bar. It was like a sign. This is where they had parked. But the area was now deserted. No Maserati convertible. Just a black asphalt and 2 white painted lines that framed the awful truth. Could everything he had told her been a lie and an elaborate game to get into her pants? Or was he just really pissed off? After all that time he'd invested, that she hadn't put out. Pissed off enough to simply ditch her all alone at the marina at 4 o'clock in the morning? Oh my God, would he really do something like that? She didn't know. She couldn't think straight. All she knew was that Ben was gone. Anna leaned wearily against the Joe Clam sign. Her shoulders sagged. She felt like crying. But even though Ben wasn't around to see her despair, she refused to give the bastard the satisfaction. She couldn't quite wrap her mind around what he'd done to her. It was just so calculated. So she calls Django. She calls Dango, and he, sleepily comes and picks her up, and they don't talk about what has just been implied here. They talk about, she accidentally hits this glove box, and she sees that there's a photo of him with a composer. I don't know about all that, but he's dark and mysterious and different. So add him to the megapolis of men who could be loved. We get back to the house and Anna wanders in all sad. She runs into a woman and freaks out, breaking a vase. This woman looks suspiciously like her mom. Let's meet Margaret. Margaret is Jonathan, her dad's girlfriend. Margaret is also an executive at the firm that she was supposed to be interning at for the semester. Margaret has a quick temper. I like Margaret. I think she's neat. So then we get taken on next morning. Okay, so I think I put it in a different section, but Anna comes in from her traumatic ass date and her dad's like, we have to talk. At 4 o'clock in the morning. She's like, it's a big room. It's not as weird as literally everything else. Her dad is like, we have to talk, and she's like trying to have a whore bath, just like to stop feeling like garbage. And like, I understand his point is that part of the reason his marriage probably failed is because his wife was never like expressive with him. She never shared. It was always, you know, arm's length. But like, why if you don't let this girl bathe, wash her ass before you're like, no, we have to talk. So that happens. So next morning we get taken on a side quest to meet Monty. Monty Pinelli put away his cell phone, pounded hard on the front door, kicked it a few times, and then pounded it again for good measure. Whatever Sam Sharp told him to do, he'd do, because Sam Sharp was his ticket. The fact that Monty and his older brother Parker even knew Sam Sharp was due to their mother, Patty Pinelli, who made sure that whatever piece of shit apartment they were living in hung on the tattered fringes of Beverly Hills 90210's zip code. No one has to know exactly where you live, she always said. Let them think you're one of them and make the contacts you need. That's how I did it. Contacts were how Monty and Parker's mom had gotten her first and only film role, in an R-rated piece of crap called Posers, about two young models and what they did for love. The other actors had gone on to fame and fortune, and the Hollywood A-list. Patty had never gotten within flirting distance of it. She had, however, flirted heavily with Bruno Pinelli, who owned the club where she worked as an exotic dancer. Bruno had promised he'd use his Hollywood connections to help further her career. 4 years later and 2 kids later. 4 years and 2 kids later, she divorced his ass, which was why Monty only knew his father by legend of that son of a bitch. It was right around that time Monty was pretty sure when his mom had first been diagnosed with clinic manic depression, a diagnosis she considered to be utter crap. That way she looked at it, she was poor and broke and had 2 kids, and her looks were going. There would be something wrong if she wasn't depressed. Monty knew that he and Parker had something their mother lacked. Game. Whereas she reeked of working class desperation and sales at JCPenney's, Monty and Parker had perfected the art of the blend. They were chameleons who could change their striations to match their background. Yep, the Pinelli boys could hang with, even thrive amongst the rich and the famous. This was key because Monty's mom never kept them in one place for very long. Every so often his mom would stop taking her meds and then she'd get a sudden insight. The neighbors and or her former Posers co-star had hired a hitman to kill her. Life was a dark hole and they'd be better off dead. That would lead her to conclude that the only way to bring herself out of this funk would be to go on an immediate shopping spree, preferably at Neiman Marcus. She'd head for the nearest upscale mall where she'd lift some rich bitch's wallet and use the credit card to buy anything her heart desired. Accomplished grifter that she was, Monty's mom would then move her kids to a new place with a good school system. Always one step ahead of the law. But now Patty had told her sons that she was determined her boys would stay in Beverly Hills, no matter what it took. Woo! Parker believed her. Monty didn't. But then Monty hardly ever agreed with his brother about anything. Parker, who had been named so because he had been conceived atop a Monopoly board, was a high school senior. He had been such a cute baby that people would stop and try and lift him from the stroller in order to get a closer look. At almost 18, he bore a striking resemblance to James Dean, except he was nearly 6 feet tall. His cultivated this resemblance to the max. Like Dean, he planned to become a movie star at a very young age. Unlike Dean, he planned to live long enough to enjoy it. Parker had already acquired an agent, albeit one in the San Bernardino Valley. While Parker had James Dean look, Monty knew the truth. His big bro had 0 talent. His acting deeply sucked, but he had so much personal charisma that people, read women and gay men, and the dried-up prune who taught drama at Beverly Hills High, who kept casting Parker in the leads of school plays, often overlooked that fact. Parker's agent was a lascivious old gentleman who liked Parker to do odd jobs around his ranch in Santa Barbara. The old geezer never touched Parker, but just the way he looked at Parker, it was enough to make Monty sick, so he'd never actually gone again. Montana actually, Patty had been certain that the next generation of movie stars would be named for the states of the Union, was a year younger than his brother. Unfortunately, he had inherited the short, swarthy, large-beak looks of his long-gone father. He figured out early on that his looks were definitely not going to be his ticket. He'd have to find another reason to make the A-list kids want to hang with him. Being the kind of guy who wanted to cover all his bases, Monty came up with 3. He was willing to be their toady, he was full of boundless energy, and was always up for anything. He had a wicked sense of humor. In other words, He would do their shit work, crack them up, and keep them up all night having fun. It was a winning combination. That Monty, only a junior, was smarter than the brightest of the A-list seniors, something he kept under wraps. He knew he was much better having them underestimate him. He had to be particularly careful around Sam, because Sammykins was almost as smart as she was insecure. Monty did not want her to feel threatened, yet for now he played affable chump. Today Samantha's smart, sharp flunky, tomorrow his own production company. One day the world. That all of these Beverly Hill brats could kiss his olive-skinned ass. One day, when his brother Parker was old, ugly, and gumming his food in the William Shatner Home for the Aged, Monty might send him a nice care package of adult diapers and denture adhesive. Sweet. So Monty is Parker's brother. Monty is ugly, but he's not actually ugly. He's just brown in the 2000s. I love me a nose. We love a good nose here. Noses are good. His brother is handsome with absolutely no skill, and he's got a lot of charisma. And Monty has sense and smarts. So Monty is Sam's do-boy, and she pays him a little bit of something, and he does stuff for her. So on January 1, Sam and Monty flip the page, go to pick up Anna to feed the homeless. Anna picks up yogurt from her father's fridge and goes about her day. She starts feeling terrible, and we meet the other kids in the English class and the English teacher. She is apparently very important to the book. Anna starts to feel very terrible as she meets up with Adam. He takes her on a little walkie walk, in which I do believe Ben sees her. They're like seen all over the place. I think Sam sees them going on walks, and they're like, damn, this bitch gets around if she's already like all over him. I am compelled. She starts feeling terrible, and this is gonna spoil it, but I feel compelled to tell you my own story. So last year, I got really into Alfredo pizzas. So Miriam and I ordered one, ate half of it. We had ordered 2 pizzas, and then ate half of each pizza, and then packed it up. We went home, packed up everything. We set the pizza in the back of Miriam's car because, oh my god, we don't have to worry about it getting flipped. It is in direct sunlight the entire 40-minute trip to the beach. We get to the beach, we start drinking, but we're just drinking we're drinking hard lemonades. Hardly an alcoholic beverage. But we're in the sun, and I was feeling a little rinky-dink that day, so I didn't even get in the water. So I didn't stand up a lot. So we get up, we start moving. I don't want to take the box back. So I eat 4 pieces. There's half a pizza left, that's 4 pieces. I eat 2 pieces of that pizza, and then 1 piece of the olive pizza. We're having a great time. It's time for us to pack up, we start moving. I'm feeling fine to start, and then I start feeling terrible. And I have a history of diabetes in my family. So I am used to sharp increases and decreases in my blood sugar. I'm used to that. I'm thinking I just need to get calories into my body. So I eat more pizza. I am oh my god, I'm drinking water. I'm I didn't drink enough of my water. I was being too conservative with the ice water. I'm trying to get everything in my body. I'm feeling terrible. Miriam goes and is washing up everything, packs up the car. I'm laying on the ground. I'm laying on the ground. Or I'm laying on this bench. My parents are they're very austere. They would have never let this happen to me. But I'm feeling very bad. And this woman, these two old people, they're both divorcees. And they're talking. And so I'm focused on that, and they're trying not to focus on me. So when I first got there, they stopped talking, and then once they were oh, this young woman is just gonna be here for a bit. They continue their conversation, in which I learned that they the woman hadn't contacted this old man because she thought that his wife hated her, and he's well, I hated my wife, so. And it was hilarious. It's actually a very big boon. I learned too much about these people. I love people watching. Miriam goes and gets the car, and I'm oh, I'm gonna vomit. So these old people are talking. The sun is shining. I've had half a pizza that has put me in the ground, and I vomit. Just bleh, bleh, bleh. And then once it's out of my body, like immediately, like the first thing that happens after I get like that first initial vomit going, I feel amazing. I feel great. Like I was like a step, like I popped up. I was like, oh my God, that's so much better. Miriam was like, are you sure you want to take it slow? Should we go get some pain meds? Like Miriam got me Gatorade from the gas station we passed. Like, you sure you don't need anything? I was like, no, I feel great. I feel lovely. And I pumped my body, said, absolutely not. So with that being said, Anna feels crazy pants. She feels sickly. She's helping get the food separated, but she's feeling terrible. It's the end of the day. The teacher's like, okay, everyone helped get some of the stuff together. Cammie's like, yeah, Anna, your hair looks so nice. And Anna's like, I don't even go to this school. I don't even need to be in this photo. And they're like, what? And she just vomits. Just vomits all in Cammie's hair. So Cammie is seeing red and blood. Luckily, Dee and Sam are there, and they get her back to her house. And we learned some crazy shit. Okay, so she was actually flirting with Parker, not Adam. Please, I have to. Anna groaned, but everyone was talking and mugging for the camera. Monty begged for one more shot. Cammie playfully leaned in, blocking Anna's face from the shot. Cammie! Something about the distress in Anna's voice made Cammie turn towards her. Anna opened her mouth again to explain that she felt like she was going to be sick, but before she could again, she was, and puked all over at Cammie, just as Monty snapped the photo. Vomit dripped from Cammie's red curls onto her lemon yellow silk marked Jacob's camisole. It oozed down her gold Calvin Klein leather jacket and landed on the toes of her fawn-colored Gucci suede boots. Cammie cursed hysterically. Anna would have been terribly humiliated, except that she passed out and missed the whole thing. So she wakes up and she's in her own bed. Turns out they've just been hanging around her house waiting for her to wake back up. Dee seems like such a paper cutout of a girl. I used the wrong person. This is Dee. This is Anna. I forgot. So Dee seems like such a carbon cutout of a girl, just blonde and pink and dumb. But I love her. So Anna got food poisoning. She got food poisoning because her dad fired all the cooking staff and hasn't taken any of the food out. He's just been ordering like takeout. So she ate it's January 1. I think the food expired November. So it was food poisoning. Everyone's like, oh my God, DILF about her dad. Look, Dee, I appreciate that you helped me when I was sick, and I appreciate that you stayed with me. Well, I'm a nice person. Even if you don't really like someone, it's too mean to just, like, leave them. Dee sat on the edge of Anna's bed. You were just about to tell me what happened with you and Ben last night. Did you do him? That's not really any of your business, Dee. Yeah, actually it is. You know, you think you know Ben, but you don't. Believe me, I have no illusions that I know him. But you know where he is. Anna's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? I mean, I called him this morning and his mom said he never came home last night. So where is he? Anna exhaled slowly. I don't know, Dee. The pain and humiliation from last night came rushing back. Anna sipped her Gatorade defensively. Dee stood up and put her hands on her hips. What is it with you people? Is it because I'm short? Isn't it? Anna shook her head. Sorry, what? No one takes me seriously. Not Cammie, not Sam, not you. Dee, just because a person is spiritual and short doesn't make her stupid, okay? Ben told you not to tell me where he is, right? What? No, of course not. Bullshit. Dee got up and paced Anna's gleaming hardwood floors. Yes, that's exactly what happened. You're covering for him. Dee, I have no idea what you're... I know you don't. No one does, except Ben. Dee looked almost smug. And you thought it was Cammie you had to worry about. I'll let you think that. I let everyone think that. She stood at the foot of Anna's bed and blew her wispy bangs off her forehead. It's like this. 6 weeks ago, Ben and I hooked up at Princeton. Anna tried to wrap her mind around this piece of news. You did? I was on a college tour with my parents. I'm not going to Princeton, but there's this really good junior college near there. So anyway, I called Ben. Just a friendly phone call, you know? So he invited me for drinks. So I went. He dropped his hands. She dropped her hands from her diminutive hips. And we ended up having a lot more than drinks. Anna was starting to feel queasy again. Could you please just tell me whatever you're trying to tell me, Dee? Sure. It's pretty simple. I'm pregnant. And it's Ben's baby. And that's where the chapter ends. Anna's like, alright, Dee. Okay, girl. And leaves. Because she's like, girl, no. Girl, fuck you. Anna's doing whatever. Anna's dad comes in and is like, hey, we have to talk. Mostly, I want to be a better dad than I was for the last, 13 years. Like, I love you and I want to be your father. Anna does not believe him, but, whatever. Also, we have to talk because Margaret just quit her job at the place where she was supposed to be interning Anna. So Anna has to go to school. At the very least. Anna's like, do I want to go back to New York? Her sister is like, I'm going to check myself out of rehab. It's terrible. Right? Good news is that Margaret is starting her own agency. She's going to be so cutthroat, so killer, so cunt. So Anna just has to wait a little bit, but it's not going to be the same type of internship, so she actually will have to go to school during the day. We'll learn more about that in book 2. So Anna decides to stay, and she starts going to Hollywood High School, Beverly Hills High School, and she's like, turns out these bitches love to dress. That ranch, they be dressing. And Anna is a little underdressed. Think about that, bit where they're like, oh my god, LA people are the only people who are still wearing rings, Versace rings on their Versace gloves. It's like that, but everyone's going to school like that. Very different from the vibe of, I don't know if it has something to do with the housing crisis, but definitely different vibe from, comparing the Click books and Talent, where they seem to both kind of are in step with each other about the New York girlies being way more dressed and way more formal. That still stands that the New York girlies are way more formal, but being way more dressed out in LA. So Anna's at Beverly Hills High. She's there on her first day. She's left alone for 5 fucking seconds, and guess who appears? Ben. Ben keeps calling her. She yeets her phone. She says no. It was Ben. Please let me talk to you, Ben said. She took a deep step back from him. How did you even know I was here? I called your father's house and the maid told me you were at school. Please just give me a chance to explain. Only now did she notice how terrible he looked. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, bloodshot eyes with dark circles under them. And the son of a bitch was still gorgeous. Every part of Anna wanted to ask him, how? How could you just leave me like that? Was everything you said to me a lie? Where were you? But she didn't say any of that. She refused to be pathetic. There's only one thing I have to ask, Anna said, her voice low. Were you with another girl? Ben hesitated. Yes, but I can explain. Yes, you can. To that other girl. There's the door, bitch! She tried to pass him, but he blocked her way. I don't blame you for hating me, Anna. I hate myself. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. After that, if you still hate my guts, I'll never bother you again. A lie. Men do nothing but lie. Maybe it was the good breeding instilled by the This Is How We Do Things East Coast edition big book, or maybe it was the naive, innocent part of her that still believed in Jane Austen, that Elizabeth Bennet would love Mr. Darcy forever and that Ben was her Mr. Darcy. 5 minutes, but not here. She led the way back into the courtyard, keeping as much distance between herself and Ben as possible. Start talking, she said. You're on the clock. He rubbed his bleary eyes. Okay, here it goes. One of my really close friends is an actress. A name you'd recognize, actually. Knowing you probably have no idea who she is, but she's pretty well known. Did he have to be so damn cute while Anna was trying to hate him? Ben's ribbing about her attention to pop culture deficit disorders were one of Anna's favorite things about him. And she was deeply touched that in the little time they had together, he already filed away certain factoids about her. But she had to be strong. She had no choice but to resist the adorable side of his personality and focus on the thoughtless, cruel side that had left her high and dry. I've known her for a while. We met through my parents. This girl's image is squeaky clean, but the truth is she's an addict. Alcohol, pills, you name it. If word got out, she'd be screwed because the insurance companies for films and TV refused to cover her. And Anna asked coldly, so the night of New Year's Eve, she OD'd at the party. The people she was with freaked. They all were afraid of getting busted. So they took her outside and left her behind some bushes. And called me on my cell. Why? Because they knew I'd come. Because I've done it before. Too many times to count. Except for a siren in the distance, it was quite dead. That's it? Anna asked finally. That's your story? I had to go, Anna. As it was, I barely got her to the hospital in time. She was turning blue. I bet. Come on. She had convulsions and it puked all over my car. There was nothing going on between us. I see. And so you left me all alone on your father's boat to go get the car. And then you get this call on your cell and you just left. Oh well. So what if Anna's on my father's boat? No problem. I'll just leave her there, alone and abandoned in the middle of the night. That's your story? You have to understand, the people who called me were crying and screaming. They thought she was dying. It scared the hell out of them. And me. Even if I did believe you, it wouldn't explain why you didn't call me on the way there. I did. Twice. From my car. You didn't answer. Ben, you never... And then Anna remembered she'd fallen asleep on the boat. She could have easily have slept right through the phone ringing. You didn't even leave a message or call me later on even. What kind of message could I leave? I kept thinking I'd just try you again. But then once I found my friend, all I could think about was saving her. Plus, would I've had to have been cryptic about identifying her, which would have made any message I left even weirder. And then by the time I was done with her, I figured you'd be so pissed off at me you'd never want to hear from me again. I even told my parents not to say where I was. And you were right, that I wouldn't want to hear from you again. And, his large hand encircled her slender wrist. I can't stop thinking about you. I couldn't go back to Princeton without seeing you. We can't just end things like this. Who writes your lines, Ben? He dropped her wrist and looked as if she had slapped him. What? She could tell she had hurt him and in a rush wanted to take it back, but she forced herself to be strong. Because this story sounds like dialogue from a trashy novel. He held up his palms to her. It's the truth. She wouldn't let her eyes meet his. She knew if she did, she'd be lost. So she focused on his chest and remembered what it felt like to rest her own head there. So warm, so comforting. Damn. So, they don't come to a resolution because this is book 1, baby. And they are going to, so she's like, bye, Ben, and yeets her phone into the trash can. She's like, I'm free. And then starts her life at Beverly Hills High. Knowing that Click book 1 was terrible, but I knew I had to keep going. And Talent book 1 was great, and book 2 was so ass it made me question if I like reading. I don't know. This one makes me... I'm already... When I wrote that, I had already started book 2, but I wasn't that far into it. And now I'm over halfway there, and I'm like, oh, no, baby. We're in. We're so back. We're so back. Sorry I took so long. I'm expecting this second or third week of April. This is the Saturday before April 1st and I'm not gonna get that out in time. I started reading this book in December, so the fact that it took me this long to read it is embarrassing, but we're here now. This book was really good. It's like a love letter to TV and teen media, and reading the back of this book where she describes it as like a 24-hour movie, absolutely. Sam loves TV, and Anna loves literature, and Cami loves drama, and Dee loves sex. And we've got like 10 more books to go. So I really hope whatever sick ride we're on doesn't end yet. I'm really grateful. You can follow me, maybe, on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Megan_Blush_. Any social media site, for the most part, if you're looking for me, is probably there. If you like the way my makeup's done in this video, the makeup will be either tagged or linked in the description on my second channel, Megan Blush. Alright, we fucking did it. Coming sometime in May, Girls on Film. Alright, bye guys, bye.